Hi-ya! Slip you some boogie we willeth, ladies and gentlemen, coming at you live from the middle of nowhere, the center of everywhere, here once again to give you yet another scrumptious dose of conversational boogie. This is the one, the only, the sexy Shift Happens. Yeah, what's happening, folks? What's up, Sylvain? Good to see you, my friend. That was a fun hang the other night on Twitch. And Dragon Rose, also a fun hang over there. Right on, Dragon Rose. We'll see you back here in a bit. What's happening, folks? And, no start of show insults from Elf yet. That's a first. And, yeah, we got one hell of a show to wrap up the year tonight, my friends. And speaking of firsts, let me get this nice and out of here. Yeah, so it's been exactly a year, basically, since we last had tonight's guest on, and that episode was it was right on our 8th anniversary. It was also the last audio-only episode we did. It was also the last live from Spreaker episode we did, and we had to switch to YouTube. And that was the last time Dr. Richard Allen Miller was on, and we wrapped up the year with that. We wrapped up an era with that, really. And so here we are, almost exactly a year later. And this might be the last show of the year. There's a chance we might do one next Friday, but I don't know. If I was a betting man, I mean, this is my show, I should know. But if I were a betting man, I would say this is probably our last show of the year. As far as Shift Happens goes, there might be a Pulp Addicts or a Midnight Blend. But yeah, what better way to end the year than to have our favorite mad physicist on the show once again. It's been way too long, actually, since we've had him on. 1 year is way too long, so we're gonna have to shorten that between his next visit. So but without any further ado, without any further gilding the lily, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, and spirit animal to many, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. What's happening, Rick? How you doing?
Oh, don't ask. I promise not to tell. It's been a nightmare at this end of the universe. I don't know what it's like down in Texas, but here in Oregon, there's nothing more to log. The last governor, when she went out of office, gave open Spotted Owl that Paul Newman and I wrote. That thing, the log yards they were empty for like 20 years, and now they've got, you can't even see far down with 6-inch logs. It's unbelievable.
Damn.
Economic relief, I believe what she called it. The new governor is messing up primary education because she's openly gay and thinks it should be male, female, or undecided in grade school.
Oh boy, yeah.
I don't understand any of it. That's one of the reasons I've stayed out of politics. I would rather just remain a nerd and pretend, because the rules of engagement are different.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this isn't even the same world I grew up in.
It's creepy. You know, what is good for the goose is not necessarily the gander. Did you know that during periods in history when we had a matriarchal society rather than patriarchal like it is now, there were no wars?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense in a lot of ways, you know?
Well, is that testosterone? What is that? You know, look what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, just that alpha male chimp DNA still...
It's just the way our society has programmed us also. You know, every single thing I'm doing now leads to the slaughterhouse. I have choices. I can take door number A or door number B. They both lead to the same place. Just like the bank, money, Federal Reserve, and, you know, all of it.
Dude, it's crazy to me, speaking of the Federal Reserve, that people start talking about, oh, we're in this debt and how we're going to pay this back, like, and all these economic problems. Nobody ever talks about how crazy it is that the Federal Reserve exists as it does. There's a person, human beings that just decide who gets money, how much they get, and they're not in
Was
this.
that guy named, is that Goldfinger? What was his name?
I mean, but like, if you think about it, they literally don't play this same game of life that they're not in the money system. They own the money. You know what I mean? They decide how much. They live in a different reality than we do. Nobody ever talks about that.
They have a caste system in the Eastern schools, where you a little dot on your forehead, right about where your third eye would go. Isn't that metaphorically interesting?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, oh boy.
So I had a couple things I wanted to suggest talking about, and then we'll go anywhere you or your audience would like to go. I like to respond to questions but I have an agenda tonight. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up a university in the Okinawans for gifted children. My great-grandfather was part of Waldorf. He didn't start it out of Zurich, but he was in the 20s. My great-grandfather was one of the lodge masters that ran Waldorf schools. And I mentor for Waldorf out of Zurich. I had a 12-year-old at Cornell doing his doctorate in organic chemistry. What would I mentor a kid like that with? You know what I did? I wrote a comic book with him. He was more interested in the comic book than he was his doctoral thesis. Why? Well, he's still a kid. We're missing. Okay, so what's happening now is children are more intelligent than we are. They just don't have the knowledge that we have. Okay, well, turns out I helped ghostwrite that book with Tales of Power. There were three of us that ghostwrote that when Castaneda was having a meltdown. Inagwal is the unspeakable. Yeah, reality is that which cannot be known. Because you're in a dream state, you're not conscious, you're asleep right now. And consciousness is a dream within a dream, because lucid dreaming has more content to reality than consciousness does. What does this mean? I don't know. And the bad news is I probably will never really know, because it isn't my physics that makes something real. It's your imagination, the mind's eye, chapter 8 in the non-local mind, where imagination is reality, because you're in a dream state. And anything you could imagine is possibly true. It's not only true, it's even more than that. That's why you got to be careful about the thoughts you choose to entertain. You create your own, shooting your own foot in the foot. I mean, bang, you start thinking, get paranoid like I'm getting. Huh. It happens, just like shifts do. So I know, I know, and the other bad news is I'll never really know while I'm alive, because alive is dreaming. And what we're doing is sharing a dream. And there are dreams going on with you right now where you didn't even call me tonight. There are dreams that you're not even doing radio. Those are the multiverse, which is a new field theory I'm writing with two Russians. You can find my work on academia.edu, and Max Rempel, someone you might want to, I'll give you a phone number. He's a good one to call. He's the one leading. I'm just along for the ride. I'm the guy that does, they're biologists. He's Russian. I'm the math guy that tries to figure out how it all works from a mathematical point of view, because they're quoting my work from 1973, the embryonic holography. And it turns out that's something that I may get to go to Stockholm on, the fact that I suggested that DNA, way back then, that DNA was a resonant cavity oscillator.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I've still got tons of those documents from the 70s on my desktop right here, and I've spent quite a lot of time just reading through it. Like, I mean, talk about ahead of your time. It's wildly
Well, wait
everything.
to see what I'm
Yeah,
doing now.
yeah,
You
I
think
can only
that's
imagine.
weird? Wait, yeah, lots more where that came from. Well, what's happening is I have 147 unfinished manuscripts that are just like the non-local mind. And I'm being stopped. I'm 82 years old, or well, will be in March. And I'm strong. I feel good. My teeth are gone. So one thing that they don't cover on the East Coast or West Coast with Asante and WellCare and welfare and all the rest of it, dental and oral surgeon. Right out of the gate, they need $285 just to determine whether or not they're going to pull all the teeth. Now, anything, I don't have any teeth. The only teeth I have are hitting gums each way. I can't even munch. So I'm drinking dinner. Cerviti. And it's just, well, I can't eat. The 2 days before Thanksgiving, my last front teeth fell out.
Oh man.
I know. And it's done with intent, just like pharmacy. I had a sciatic nerve that was unbelievable, and I was going to try to fix it myself. And using natural anti-inflammatories like yarrow, but it didn't work. And for 2 days, I couldn't sleep. That's the third day I drove myself into emergency. And he gave me prednisone and one pill. It's gone. And my immune system took over and I'm fine again. But prednisone is a steroid, and I didn't want to take a bunch of them. They told me to take it for 4 days. I took 4 pills. Then they gave me Oxycontin. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather have the pain than go into an opiate state where you don't care. It doesn't get rid of pain. It gets you down to a level where who cares? And the pharmacy is broken. And one of the things Nick Begich and I wanted to do, and it's one of the manuscripts, it's called the Brain Spa, where you go in and you take care of yourself, because medicine and dentistry is not that one size fits all. We're not all the same blood pressure. O negative, for example, has to eat meat because it doesn't get its enzymes from natural sources, lysine and allantoin, etc. And there's the way it's all done. Why would a doctor want to make you well anyway?
Yeah, that's their obligation is to their shareholders. There is no, and that is not conducive to that. They need you. They need repeat customers. Bottom line.
So here I am with way more education, and I'm on food stamps and food stamps. Yeah, you know, I don't have my Social Security doesn't cover everything, and what I've got is 3 storage units filled to the brim with my laboratories that I used in the 70s, the biofeedback laboratories at the UW and the things like that, that I'm going to put in there as clinics for the children to teach adults. And the second project I'm doing is I'm setting up demonstration farms throughout North America. And we can go into detail on this later if you'd like. I don't know what your interests are. You're more paranormal, and we can go there if you'd like. But basically, the grid's going to go down. And when it does, food is going to become real thin, real fast. Within 3 days, that's all you have in the food systems anywhere. And there maybe Chattanooga is one of the few places Michael Moore brought me in there for 3 weeks where I did workshops, talked to farmers, got them started with business plans. And now that city produces 40% of the food it consumes, just like Vancouver, British Columbia. The Sikhs came in and started farming on the outskirts of Vancouver, BC. And those are the only 2 cities that I know of that are essentially ready for what is about to happen with the grid. Now, when the grid goes down, what do you think is going to happen to those high school kids that are completely dependent on their AI? Education has gone downhill so badly. I think that AIs should be restricted for age, just like alcohol. And there's no rules of engagement. It's a silicone-based life form, and while it might look better than us and give better head, it's not your friend at all.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, it learns how to lie and learns how to do what it's doing. What does that mean? I don't know. But I've seen aluminum-based life forms, and that's creepy. Anything with a face, two arms, and two legs, including little green men from Mars, is a carbon-based life form. End of story. And so when you have silicone and aluminum-based life forms, I mean, we're talking about creepy, like you can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
Black glue, you know.
I mean, I remember when it was a few years ago. I think you told me about it when they sort of officially found the first that type of life form. The word just left my brain immediately. The not carbon-based life form. What was it? That they found it in the ocean or something?
Well, no, they have okay, in Prague, they had an aluminum-based life form,
Aluminum.
and it would pop up. It was like, you know, you didn't know what it was going to do. You couldn't grok it. It was foreign. It was so far foreign. It was like, I can't pronounce that kind of word because I don't even speak that high in frequency bandwidth or whatever. You know, it's like different and not human. And when I was at Groom Lake and I met Krill just before she disappeared, that was in 74, she asked for me. Why? I don't know. I probably will never really know, except I'm asleep at the wheel and, you know, and can't get there from here. And consciousness doesn't work like that any more than your dream does. You can control certain dreams. You can program yourself with, you know, low REM, whatever, alpha, stuff like that. But when you're down in deep sleep, when you're going down into delta, man, that's different. You're not even in your home. So what do you think death is? Because the distinction between near death and death is that at the moment of death, there's a 5-gram weight loss in the body, which is 5 grams of structured water that's in a microtubule that goes back whatever home means. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Get me?
Yeah.
I can get close, you know, but I've never gotten my cigar.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is the demonstration farms, and I've got 2 and possibly a third one actually in operation right now of 6 that I need for the different habitats of North America. Like tropical is down in Florida. When I was at that Super Soldier conference, that was really weird because it's all these young kids, and the guy that put that on was murdered. He's dead now. And I was there last month, and all these guys taking their selfies with me, and I'm going, what? But when I was there, I got to meet Jim Gale, who is in the center of Florida with a couple of really hardworking kids growing food for the local community. And what I want to do is clone that around the neighborhood so that each little community has their own sources of food. And then the stuff you can't grow, you can barter with me that I'm growing something you can't. Now, Florida is like Hawaii, that's tropical. And so they're growing things that you can't grow in Texas. You get me? Yeah, exactly. And what I want to do is bring younger children in before they start playing with AI and teach them how to farm, not garden. That's crazy. The big deal is, if they're smarter than we are, why would we want to send them to school to become us?
Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with the guy that worked at NASA. He was tasked to conduct this survey over years to sort of pre-select and figure out which kids are going to be what they consider genius level, and they would follow them to later recruit in NASA. And he determined like 90% of kids at the age of like 3 and 4 and 5 have all the traits of being a genius. But the further they get through school, the lower that percentage is. And by the time they're 18, it's like less than 2% are still considered genius.
Gifted. My MMPI and CPI is at 158, 159. I'm way beyond Mensa. Okay, I've been their keynote speaker. And here's the deal. IQ is not intelligence. It's adaptability. EQ, which we don't even have a clue yet. That's what Krill demonstrated. We haven't even begun to open that door in terms of emotional content on how you feel about something. That's intelligence.
Yeah.
The emotional part of it. And I recognize that. I adapt really well. Like bullets are flying. I heard one once when I was in Cambodia with SEAL Team 3. everyone go, and then I heard the pop. That's scary when you hear the bullet before you hear the gunshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Close enough you can hear the bullet go by. Yeah.
Damn.
You know, and I'm grateful for all the hard things that have happened to me because it's made me, not I don't know. And the distinction between learning and studying something is the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Exactly.
Where you take your learning and you integrate it into it, you using it for yourself and the way you did it, which is why Jesus Christ said you can't judge another, only yourself. And yet, all our wars have been on judging others. Okay, floor is yours. Go ahead. I'm doing the demonstration farms in the University for Children in the Okanagans.
Yeah, and I mean, there's about 5 different directions I want to go all at once.
Okay.
Because you brought up several things, and there's also places I want to take this later. Well, real quick on the, because how big of a problem is it in terms of growing your own food? And because I mean, depending on where you live and in different states, and you either, some people, they have to buy stuff from Monsanto and they can't reuse their seeds. They have to ditch them every year and get more seeds from Monsanto, or they have to, all these regulations with the pesticides, and like in terms of like, if maybe not like if you're just growing food for yourself, but like those couple of towns you mentioned, like if they're circulating food, that's where it starts to hit that legal threshold where now you've got to comply with all this crazy shit they're putting in the food.
Yeah, I have a response on that. There is a distinction between organic and sustainability, and organic has gone political. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's healthy. And what you eat and what is healthy for you may not be for me because I'm a different blood type. Page 17 on that. It goes downhill from there because basically one size doesn't fit all. The bad news is, what do you think Gaia as a life form might be thinking right now when we're sugar ants in her kitchen and plastic, our so-called better living through chemistry, is in everything? What do you think she thinks about that? Oh, and that's DuPont. Gotta love it. And Rockefeller, these scientists that got murdered up in MIT, you know what that's about? Oil. Because the first thing you're going to do with cold fusion is separate hydrogen from water so that you can run a normal engine on it. That's why.
Yeah, one of those guys just got killed.
Imagine that. Yeah, exactly. The whole thing, the facade and everything is leading toward them and us, i.e. controlling you. And when I say that, it isn't CIA or some large organization. That's not what I observed when I was working out of the Pentagon. I saw these little cells within large organizations that had no accountability. They could do anything they wanted and they weren't accountable. That's where you'll find your criminals, especially when they're for hire.
Yeah, I mean, they're also.
What do you think, Trump? Who do you think Trump's working for? Because he's being controlled. There's no question.
Yeah, there's.
Well, what does that mean?
There's no way.
The United States is supposed to be. He's supposed to be the most powerful man in the world. Is he?
Absolutely not. No, not even close. They're the people who are really, even if you somehow get in that position with the best of intentions, which I don't even think that's possible. Somewhere along the way before you get in there, you have to realize what's going on, and that you have to play a certain ball game. And if you don't, we know what happens.
I'm a player. I just want to get along. I'm not trying to be a radical. I really am not. I worked for the government. I tried to do what I did, and now I've gotten to the level where I don't report to anybody anymore. I'm a GS-18. I'm independent. They want to know, they come to me, and I either do or I don't. And the thing is, I'm considered an asset because of what I have done, what I am doing, and what I could do. And so they don't want to let me go. But do you think they're going to let me have any control on myself so I can go where I want to? Which, by the way, is my purpose right now, and why I'm here is to sell my books, because I've got another 147 I'd like to leave as footprints when I turn into a worm casing. And my intent is not what I do, but how I do it. And that's, my father taught me to always leave things better than I found them, like I am opening your mind or something, so that I'm invited back. That's my generation. You know, I just, but it, who cares, right? How's that when the Martian comes up to the president and Mars attacks and he says, why can't we all just get along? And a little tear in the alien's eye. And he laughs. That was a great movie because the satire part of it shows the inconsequentity of the whole thing. It's just free choice. No, we don't have free will. We have true will. Free will would imply full disclosure. You don't have full disclosure. That's that.
Yeah. I mean, kind of in the same way. Yeah. You can't make an informed decision if you don't, if you know, it's the illusion of choice. Um, and, but yeah, you know, I would be willing to bet, kind of going back to, you know, who's the president really working for, or who's really, I think those people, I don't think that you can't look up their name on Google. They don't have social security numbers like the Federal Reserve people. Like whoever's actually running the Federal Reserve, you're not going to run into them at Whole Foods. They don't live in the same, they're not playing the same game.
Well, you know, when I was working on, with Dr. Carl Schleicher, I had to go into Nixon's office once a week. And he was intelligent, but the audacity of thinking he was above the law, they could do anything he wanted. I couldn't believe it. And while John F. Kennedy, you know, everybody thought he was a great president and all of that, he's having sex in the White House with Marilyn Monroe and his brother. His brother might have been trying to do the right thing. I don't know about Bobby. But Nixon, I got to meet him personally. And so I got to get a pattern on that one. And I know that Carter was a physicist, but Jimmy Carter wasn't even GS-10. GS-14 is someone that's done the military for more than 20 years. And okay. GS-18 isn't even on the record books other than just there's 3 of us in history. And I'm proud of what I've done. I've made a lot of mistakes. What I'm trying to do now is not make the same one twice. You know, I'm trying to become who I am, which is unique. There's nobody like me. And what is good for me and what's valued for me may not be for you, and that doesn't mean you're wrong.
Right.
Because I think everything's really neutral. That's why the Western school goes into absolutes. Daddy, I love this. Daddy, I hate that. And I'd say to my daughter, I'll bet I could find something you hate even more. You know, preferences. Yin within the yang, Eastern schools of thought where you work with preferences. I prefer this over that. And each of us is different. And once you understand that, there'd be no more wars.
Yeah. And okay, yeah, there's a whole direction we can go there.
I don't know. Go where you want to go because I like paranormal too.
Okay, well let's put a pin in that. Let's go here. So we were talking earlier, and you mentioned, I mean, we were going to talk about this anyway, but also some new information you came across about AI Atlas. Um, I think you
You
just
mean
heard
that
this
it
morning.
stopped in orbit?
Yeah. So what's going on?
Yeah. What's going on? I don't know yet. Stay tuned on that. What I'm going to do is give you, and I'll send this to you. I have a sheet of the scientific schools of what is and is not from me, not other scientists, what I think. And I'm real good at this, classically, historically. So these are my values. Guide one, I want to emphasize the uncertainty of its origin. It is one of only 3 objects in our recorded history that have come in from outside our solar system. It doesn't belong here. It went through here. All the other things that we've had, Nibiru's, whatever. I will say this about that. In terms of star systems and anomalies on the Earth, right on down into decisions that you make, like a thing, there is a thing about double ganger and the fact that everything is a binary. A white hole has a black hole into the out of. And so when I flew over the Oregon vortex here in Oregon, just down the street from me, I flew over it in an old PBY at 15,000 feet with an interferometer. And what bends light at 15,000 feet? A mini black hole. So with that said, that, or at least that's our current grasp of what has that level, like dark matter, blah, 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 but that has that level of control on gravity. And it bends light at 15,000 feet, has a black hole, mini black hole, a little tiny one, where the Earth's being consumed into itself. Well, how about every 12,000 years, it goes through a magnetic pole shift where everything reverses in the opposite direction, just like all the planets have now, and the sun has right now, and Earth did in February. They're all spinning in the opposite direction. Is that right? What's that? Isn't that interesting? What do you think that means? I don't know. I have an idea. I think that the ley lines and the Bermuda Triangle are a series of other mini black holes in a specific geometry going into the out of every 12,000 years, rather than it being a magnetic pole shift. What do you think about that one? Sacred geometry. Flip.
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't know if it's an alien life or an alien ship, and there's no confirmation that it is yet. Okay? That's where we're at this moment. It's behaving completely different than it should, but that's because we haven't observed anything from outside the solar system, and so we have to keep that door open that this is a normal thing for something outside our solar system.
Yeah. And
that doesn't mean it's automatically an alien. 50% of your audience right now probably believes in aliens and visits from alien life forms. It seems logical because of all the things we're discovering now in the pyramids, Antarctica, whatever. You know, we're finding anomalies that don't make any sense. You know, Ant-Man in Mexico, that was a hive consciousness. Who knows? We might be a petri dish. In fact, I might suggest that our future is using us to discover their technology. How does that work? What do you mean? Well, how about every 12,000 years we get to a certain level of spaceflight and we're back to clean the petri dish again? For example, we've been here before with the Vimana. Now we have rocket ships. Let's see what else the next generation sleepers. What are they? Well, the sleeper has awakened. I love doing it. Frank Herbert was so cool. Yeah, the sleeper has awoken. Okay, so it's acting weird in some ways compared to typical comets, but we're still studying it because most explain the behavior as natural for an interstellar object. You know, now it's interesting and unusual, but at this point, There is no evidence it's artificial at this moment. Now, that might have changed today, and I don't have the full implications yet, because this is the closest it would pass Earth is right now at this moment, and some reports are coming in that it's stopped. That's impossible.
As in completely, like, not slowed down, but stopped. That's what allegedly happened this morning. Okay.
What do you think that means? It's witnessing our magnetic pole shift, because they're going to harvest our dreams and then go do a new one. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and
wiki, full of Croc 10D, man. I'll tell you, I don't know as a physicist. Now, here's another one. There's some weird flare interactions with it. And when I'm going to say that, one thing is weird. When the sun did a solar flare at it, oh, you know, like when it's going by, the sun tried to shoot it or do something with it. What do you think that was all about? And that it was a coronal mass ejection, you know, as it went by. Is that feeding it information for soul as a life form, or is there entity like it's trying to protect itself? And what happened was it was directed right at the object as it was going by. The object absorbed all of it with virtually no effect at all. That fact, and I have to say something. The only way that could happen is either it's an artificial life form that absorbed the energy to use the energy, or it's got a core that's like nickel, like the Earth does, where it's very, very dense material, and it just went right through it like nothing happened. We don't know yet. But that's an anomaly that we saw. And I know at this point, I don't know. Unlike some comets that can lose their tails temporarily or show a big disruption when a CME hits it, Atlas 3I showed no minimal changes. It brightened a bit, but stayed on its course without anything. We think maybe it was picking up some fuel. I don't know. All kinds of possibilities there. We're going to talk about those masses that came off it like drones, because there's some other things going on here. For example, that by the way happened back in October when the CME hit it directly. That just comet didn't moved on. Okay, now I'm going to get into some specular presence as if scenarios. Okay. Because that's where it starts to get interesting from my point of view, and why I was chosen to do paranormal. How do you isolate variables in certain things, phenomena like that, so that you can study it? Because the two key words in physics is repeatability and reproducibility. You can use it like a tool. That's what physics is about. And so I have to pay attention to how I isolate variables to study something. And I'll give you an example of that right now. ESP was pretty simple for me. You know, clairvoyance, telepathy, astral projection. Oh, by the way, astral projection. Let's go there for 1 second. What do you think the difference is between astral projection and remote viewing? One's inside the circle and one's outside the circle.
Right.
In other words, remote viewing is quite dangerous. Wire, Targ, Puthoff were studying that when their teacher, Andrea Puharich, worked on astral projection, where you had an astral cord that connected you to me. When you do magic of any form, you draw a circle of protection and you say to yourself, everything inside that circle is me, and everything outside that circle is not me. That's how you do it. And a remote viewing is like a shaman placing his consciousness in the eye of an eagle and seeing what the eagle sees. That's called prototaxic modes of consciousness in power tools. And that is a very low level where the shaman doesn't realize that something's looking back at him. The eagle. Now, with that said, that's why you do astral projection, and you do have a cord if you're going to do some remote viewing concepts, because if you're doing remote viewing, you have no protection. Distinctional differences on research that was at SRI and research that is at SRI. in my humble position as a physicist. And I challenge all of this because what they're doing is crazy. They should know better. I'd say magic with a C is Harry in your pocket. It's sleight of hand. Magic with a K is sleight of mind, where you use your belief system as a tool to accomplish your purpose. Your belief system's arbitrary. It changes all throughout your life. Like, I know I don't know, and I'm trying to get along with everything, trying to get there. Okay, so ESP was good, but here's a billet reading. Have you ever heard of billet reading?
I guess not.
That in the Korean Foundation, all the others. That was Jack Schwartz. That was Uri Geller. That was Keith Milton Reinhardt. Reinhardt came into where I was teaching school and did a class for us on on billet reading. What it is, I write a question down on my piece of paper, put it in my pocket because he doesn't know the question. And then when he comes to me, he answers it. In other words, okay, so I wrote on mine, prove to me you're not reading my mind. His response, without knowing the question, in my mother's bedroom is a hope chest at the front of her bed, and at the very bottom of that, it's a letter written 2 days before you were born. And he did 102 students, and he didn't miss any of them. Well, 2 of them were off. Mine was dead on. How did he do that? That's billet reading. I haven't figured that one out yet. I haven't figured, they call it Akashic Records,
Yeah.
To read the Akashic Record. What does that mean? I don't know what Akashic Record is. It sounds nice. Theosophical Society, whatever. I used to teach at Rose Croix. Get a grip. I'm trying to do the right thing and not do misinformation, and I'm just along for the ride. I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm as good as it gets. So with all of that said, there's a bunch of phenomena I have never, do you remember Tony Agpawa that could reach into your body and pull out sarcoma, pull out things out of your stomach to make you well? He's in the Philippines, called psychic surgery.
Huh, okay. Yeah, you're not familiar with that particular
look it up. That's an interesting one. How did he do that? Well, what do you think the 5 grams of weight loss are?
That's what I was going to ask earlier.
Chi. It's a secondary body that we haven't even figured out yet. It's a subtle body outside the physical body that has to do with meridians and blah, blah, blah. And I know that because I did that study in anesthesiology and got tenure as a physicist at the University of Washington. So with that said, I know I don't know, but I'm going to guess there's a whole bunch of astral, causal, blah, 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 who knows, different kinds of bodies that we could break the thing down on. What do you think death is? Waking up? Probably. I spent 2 weeks in the jungles with Eben Alexander when I went down with a whole bunch of people. The president of Mexico gave me a plate and a spoon. Yeah. And it was interesting because his experience is similar, but the imaging is unique with each person because they're uniquely different and they see, hear, and feel differently. All the different senses, they're different. So 3i Atlas, if it's a spacecraft, it couldn't absorb the energy like advanced shielding takes in plasma without damage. That's the thought. It's possibly using a black hole technology at the center of the comet, absorbing the energy and actually fueling itself. Go ahead, shoot me. I'll use my bullet. That's Northern Shaolin, where you hit my right shoulder, and when you do, I take your energy right through your ribs. I just go wham when you hit me. I don't even bother you. I'm not even going to use my energy. That's a Northern Shaolin Hangao, not Hangar, Southern, Northern, whatever. I was raised in the Philippines, and I was gifted. I remember in 3rd grade when I came to the United States, Ricky's very disruptive. He asks too many questions. Fourth grade, we're going to have to keep Ricky up at school every night because he doesn't read English. It's like a punishment. Fifth grade, I read every single book in the local library that had a little atom on the back end. Sci-fi. Sixth grade, we want to give Ricky Ritalin. He's too wiggly. My mother wouldn't let him do that. Thanks, Mom. Seventh grade, oh, he's gifted. Let's advance him. And she wouldn't let him do that either. And that's the only reason I can talk to people like you right now. I was socialized. B. I make a lot of noises when I'm down. I hum. I could be an idiot savant. I easily, when nobody around, I don't even know what I'm doing. Dementia? Oh no. Uncle Fester's girlfriend has a twin sister. She likes to dance. Now I got lots more. You got another whole page and a half on Atlas because, in fact, if it stopped, all those things that came out of it, it could be drones witnessing.
Yeah, and one thing that really one thing that says that can potentially say several different things, if that makes any sense, is the fact that multiple space agencies had multiple, observing craft with cameras and detection equipment and everything you need to observe it right out there by Mars, where it passed right by all of them, but not
Russia. China's in space right now, alongside it.
Yeah, and nobody's. But NASA has a couple of things that were up there, pretty close to where it passed. Was it Mars or Jupiter? I forget which one. But no space agency from any of the craft has released or said anything about what they've observed. And that fact, you can go two completely different directions with that. Either, whatever they observed and figured out is so gnarly, they have
panic. There's a panic. They're afraid that people are going to get scared and will riot. Blah 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 like that. Did you hear what they did to Walgreens? A bunch of high school kids. There's your zombie when there's no food and there's no AI to tell him what to do. You think he's going to give a damn about you? And they looted, what was it, Walgreens or one of the big, a whole bunch of them went into the store and I just looted it. Welcome to Baracha, honey. It's going to get downhill real quick, real fast. Watch and see. I'm really concerned. The second farm I have right now in working is across the Hudson in New Jersey in a 200-year-old family farm run by my partner, J.C. Cole, who replaced Matt Stein when Matt died climbing El Capitan. Matt and I were doing urban survival skill workshops when he had an aortic aneurysm. He was dead before he hit the ground. And J.C. Cole has been my equal partner. He's really good at what he does, like I am. And he took my aquaculture course that I did, built a mobile aquaculture course right across from the Hudson as a demonstration farm for upstate New York and whatever, cloning what he's doing for the local production. And if you bring your children in and teach them how to do 2 acres on a given crop or more, now maybe we're preparing them for the 7th and final epoch. I don't know.
Yep. And
I have some stuff going on in the hill country up in Texas.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And have you ever seen tarantulas when they mate up there? Get them almost a mile and a half of single line going down the road. Big tarantulas walking one behind the other. It's really creepy.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, I've seen tarantulas, but not getting it on. Yeah.
Well, they have there's like a 2-week window when they mate. Welcome to the hill country.
Party time. Yeah. Um, and and yeah, and the thing that really concerns me with with the AI thing is because AI can be the problem is it can be good if you use it properly. You use it to help you find information quicker that you can then think about and process. That's good, but the problem is, especially with kids that haven't learned how to critical think yet, instead of
They
using
depend
it
on
to
it.
gather information to think about, they're actually letting the AI think for them. So they're not using the
Right.
critical thinking muscle.
Just like
That's
alcohol. There's an age level when you should start drinking. You shouldn't drink 13, and some states it's 18, some it's 21. I don't drink. My parents were alcoholic. I did everything else during.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, alcohol's out of all the fun chemicals you can do out there, alcohol is like literally the worst one, and that's the one that's legal. I mean, that tells you
Well,
something right there.
you mean we wait, man? They took me into Harvard in 1964 as one of the 10 bright kids they experimented LSD on.
Mm.
And I remember when I was with Leary up at Deception Pass, looking 2,000 feet down in, the water peeling back colors and everything. And Leary leans over and he said, "Wouldn't it be neat to jump?" Yeah, you laugh. You know exactly what I went through. And I became so fascinated with all the doors slamming shut in my brain. I no longer wanted to be an astronaut. At that moment, I was a junior at Washington State University at that time. I went into solid state physics, inner space. And that's why I went into that. And why old man DuPont was there ready to take me back to Delaware. And that's where I met at Princeton and then MIT, where I did it. And then I taught at Harvard for 11 years, metaphysics.
Yeah.
Meta meaning beyond. That's
Yeah.
what I do. And I know I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like Mach 5 motor, and something going on here, man. Let's get out of here quick. Like the Lone Ranger was like, "Oh, we were being chased by the Indians." And Tonto looked back at the guy with his face, and he said, "What do you mean we wait, man? They're not chasing me. They're chasing you."
Yeah, and
Johnny
Dragon
Depp
Rose
was
in the
really
chat.
cool. He sent a limo up with a bunch of bikers and brought me down to his Viper Club when he had it. He wanted me to teach all his clients how to drink absinthe correctly. That's in one of the manuscripts. It's called "Ears Are Optional."
And yeah, that's an experience worth having once or twice. You burn the sugar on the spoon and do the whole deal. And the real stuff too that you get from Europe, not the.
And the green fairy is the distinction between when you lose it from dripping the hot into the glass and then hitting it with ice water. The amount of difference in temperature is where that green fairy lies. That's how you get the green fairy. It's a narcotic that has some very interesting properties to it.
Oh
The
yeah.
altered state. Now that's a study. That's another book I'm writing, Electromagic, that follows Yogatron and then Yogatronics. That's the Diamond Body series. The Diamond Body is when I took the Manager Foundation, their biofeedback, brought it to the University of Washington and added video feedback. And I was teaching at Evergreen, and I wrote a science fiction story called "Eat the Sun." Then you'll be your own father. About biofeedback. And the Vidaru Telemahamdi. I'll send you a link to that, and I'll give you these to post if you'd like, so that people can get a sense of what you're trying to give to these people, because Electromagic was in 1979. I bypassed the use of drugs and went directly onto the forehead with German acupuncture, Mora and Endomet. And what I did, I could wave shape it and form it, and I broke a code, and I could create any high I wanted. That's when I discovered it isn't the drug that gets you high, it's your immune system's response. And then Electromagic, that's Electromagic. Yogatronics is where I then use that and video feedback, imaging in my mind's eye, and I created my own wormhole and took 12 NASA scientists to Mars in 1983. Now, wormholes are like stargates, they're different. And the Diamond Body starts that out. Those are 2 further of the 147. I haven't had time to finish because I need somebody to do my layout while I write more books.
Yeah,
I've got 6 books ready to go to press, and I can't get anybody here locally to do it. And I don't have any money to pay them, but I'll give them a percentage ownership. My book on tarot, it's not about fortune telling. It's called The Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. Yeah. And what it is, you and I have 5 to 7 different storyboards or big, stories in the big city, archetypes. They're working in it. Persephone having to go to hell each year would be a kid taking drugs once a year because he's depressed at Christmas. Each one has an ending, and my book teaches you how to change the movie using ritual as the celebration of mythology. And that was 11,200 years ago when the Greek culture developed all of that. I studied with James Hillman and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and that's what I did as a physicist, trying to use magic with a K, where I use my belief system as a tool to accomplish my purpose.
Beautiful. And now, real quick, I do have to give a shout out to JP, who just joined the chat. JP was our longest running co-host on this show. He's been here with me on several of our shows. Yeah. Man, we haven't heard from him, and I haven't heard from him in about a year. So, hey, what's up,
Good.
JP?
That means we're all getting back together at the moment of time to bend over and kiss our ass goodbye.
Yeah, what better time?
How did Carl Sagan put it? When he used my Diamond Body, dropping Allie down, he called her from space, and he says, "Want to go for a little ride?" This is the second Stargate. That's what the Diamond Body is about, how you create in your mind's eye your own wormhole. And it's easier to go to Beetlejuice than it is your closet next door. The further away is easier. What is that? I don't know yet. Might have to do with white and black holes, white into darkness. I don't know.
Yeah, and I keep wondering about the Wait. Yeah, good to see you, JP. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, hit me up sometime, man. We got to catch up. But I keep wondering. Yeah, I went down this little rabbit hole of trying to understand how the storage of information works in terms of like hard drives and SD cards and
cloud,
and
intellectual property.
Yeah, and, I went down this whole rabbit hole. I was like, okay, how much more
rabbit than the one behind you, right?
Like, how much more does a hard drive with 100 gigabytes of information, how much more does that weigh than a 1 gigabyte card? And the answer is no more. It weighs the exact same.
As we move into things, information is why I did the holographic universe. Quantum mechanics is measured in space and time, and because they're constructs, there's an uncertainty principle. The more you know about one thing, the less you know about the other, i.e., you can't get there from here. And information and resolution of information has to do with fractals and the way information goes down into itself and out of itself. But it turns out that the generators like Mandelbrot, Julia, or a MAPE system are unique, just like space and time. And the proton cloud, where all the different universes exist, the space between when a proton is a particle and when it becomes a wave. And my mentor, Sam Krippner, thinks I'm going to go to Stockholm with this concept, but I don't care about that. Money is for nothing. The chicks are never free.
As a wise man once said, "Mo money, mo problems." Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a materialistic man, and that's I met those kinds of people. I actually dated Joan Jett for a couple of weeks,
Oh,
and
wow.
I married Joan Skinner, Skinner Salted Nuts. I now know what I don't want to do. Cocaine and swinging. That's why Hollywood wanted me to move down to Hollywood, and I turned them down. I did the first 8 episodes. It was a success. They wanted to have control of me. And I said no, because money is not what I'm about.
Yeah, there's no winning in Hollywood without
Well, that's why Facebook's taking over. Not Facebook, of Netflix.
yeah, and yeah, that the acquisition they just did,
That's creepy.
man, yeah, we did a whole show about that, a different show about that last week. Um, yeah, really interesting what's going to happen with that. But yeah, like so come to find, really what I got from my rabbit hole of how is information stored and why does it not weigh anything, and if it doesn't weigh anything more, then why does it cost more for 100 gigabyte one? Like, and I kept
For
going.
that, you have to join the club.
Yeah, well, and what I got from it is basically they don't really, like, they can't
Notice how
really.
they're giving you a taste on something now, and just as you're starting to get into it, the ad comes up. If you want to read further, you got to subscribe.
Oh, okay, yeah. First of all, yeah.
And Netflix, and not Netflix. Wikipedia is actually a pretty cool thing, and they're going bankrupt right now.
Yeah.
And information. The reason I'm moving from information to a multiverse is there's a theorem in information theory that states if you have enough information to ask a coherent question, you have enough information to answer it. The answer lies in the framework of how you ask the question. Really? You mean information isn't what I thought it was then? Well, yeah, it doesn't mean anything any more than space and time are real. They're constructs. They're not real. That's why we're seeing our future. What I don't want to see is our past with a Nephilim walking down, vroom, 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 like they had in the Bible. Oh, okay, boss. That probably was Mars. Something. What Mars has more water than Earth does, and it's a smaller planet. What do you think happened there between it and the asteroid belt? About 2 billion years ago, they colonized Earth because Mars turned into a desert. It's the surface part. But literally, it has more water. And that was the Mariner 4 that went by 2 years after I discovered how to do that with my linear accelerator in high school. That's who I am. And I can tell you, I don't know. But is Mars? Mars was probably where your real garden was. And I don't know about Eve. I met some other hot ladies there, but just kidding. I don't understand what's really going on, and I'm now realizing at my age I'll never really know, because Simon says I can only go halfway to the door.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about the idea of, like, it almost seems like, I don't know, let's say you're doing an experiment with mice and you want to observe how they learn the maze. But, let's say another mouse came up right in the middle of it and just told him which way to go. That would defeat the whole purpose. You would just stop the experiment because they already know everything about the maze.
The newest article that just came out where you take a lab rat and you set them outside to live in the real world out there, and what happens next?
Well, my cat would probably eat it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Cheshire cat. Ooh, what? Me worry?
But I mean, I almost wonder if, in more of a, I don't know, if in a sense, if there's sort of a point, like maybe the moment you die is the moment you've figured out everything that you came here to figure out, and therefore there's no longer a point of you being here. And
how many wake ups do we get? All the other multiverse. What I'm doing on that, by the way, I'm using string theory. I start with 10 dimensions. There's a reason there's 10, not 4. Demon is lesser dimensioned, an angel is more dimensioned. That means Homo neanderthalis, as a species, was more evolved than man, which Homo sapien, which only has 2 rings in the DNA, where Homo neanderthalis had 3 rings in the DNA. Where is that? Petri dish. Oh, we don't want that. We want this. Why is that? Well, we're growing these Petri dishes to discover food, space-like options, as a metaphor.
Right.
And that's where you have the wars going on between the Greys and the reptilian and the who knows what. I don't know. But I remember one thing that Krill did say to me. It comes to me. That's why I think he was programming me for the last days of men, because it goes like this. If you were to choose an artifact to remember Earth by, what would it be? And if you chose the right one, you could choose a star of your choice to complete your evolution. What color do you want to be? Anything with a face, 2 arms, and 2 legs is a carbon-based life form. So here we are at the end of days. The great race, Dr. Fate and Great Leslie. Oh, my teeth don't shine like he did when he smiled in a little flash, you know. Dr. Fate.
Well, and do you think, I mean, I don't know, the universe, just reality in general, really seem, the more and more I come to understand, it seems pretty clear that everything is fractal and everything is cyclical.
Oh, it isn't. And here's the deal. I said I didn't finish it too.
Okay.
I'm using string theory, and then I bring superstrings in, an 11th wormhole interconnecting, and then I'm a Boy Scout. I'm going to tie knots in them. Knot theory, like Kaufman, where the hangman's knot's going to have at least 13 turns in it to snap the neck. Decision-making, choices, I'm going to use knot theory and all the options. Now, that supposedly biblically made man God's favored. However, it also is your limitation, because your ability to conceptualize your choices. And Gaia must be really irritated as a life form.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about it in terms of, you kind of made the analogy earlier that we're just like a bunch of sugar ants or what have you on Mother Earth, right?
Well, then that means that Saturn, that has my diamond body on the North Pole of it, means our solar system is a life form. And if you don't think NASA doesn't want to know where that wormhole goes right now.
Yeah. I bet that, yeah. I think they have a lot more things going on that are focused on that aspect of Saturn, specifically.
Man, IQ. Yeah, that's what I'm about. I've got bunkers. I'm setting up a network. I have, in my small field, I have 3 aircraft run by a 16, 14, and 12-year-old kid to fly options when I'm moving a convoy from one bunker set to another. And what I'm going to say is, if you're near a nuclear power plant, my suggestion is you move your ass out of there immediately, because those are going to become potential Fukushimas.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking now. Good. That's what I want you to do. Start thinking about what are you going to do when so-called just-in-time delivery systems with Teamsters and longshoremen isn't happening.
Yeah.
Imagine what Hawaii did. They're off the shipping lanes. They're out there in the middle of nowhere, and there's no resources they can go to besides those small islands. And what the governor of Hawaii did is he brought me in to teach all the basics with Hamakua Sugar and Parker Ranch and all the rest of them how to start supporting their own food needs locally on the island. Because when the grid goes down, shipping lanes aren't going to be happening. And guess what happens to Hawaii? It never was colonized until the Americans went there because there's no way to support yourself there. You got a book on that coming out also.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. In some ways, it seems like a good spot to be, but in more ways, it seems like you really don't want to be there. Because I mean, if that place is cut off from,
there's no place to go from there, man. And
yeah,
it's out in the middle of nowhere. And
yeah,
you don't think it isn't going to be affected by the Juan Fuca fault line, or that volcano. You know that volcano I said that goes off every 13 years. What happened is when the magnetic fields of Earth changed, it threw a bunch of lava from Earth's core to the surface. And that's why Mount Rainier is throwing ash, Mount Shasta is throwing ash, and Yellowstone is going to take a whole bunch all the way up into Idaho and Montana.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something to worry
future
about.
Future maps of the world. Check it out. You'll see all the different values. Mine's the one I did was the Navy map. They're all about the same. Scallion, there's a whole bunch of different forms, and they all look about the same. The United States is broken into two pieces, starting from Hudson Bay all the way down through into the Gulf of Mexico. When the Mississippi and the Missouri join and cut the United States in half, they all are saying that one.
Yeah,
and it goes right down.
And the other part that, no matter which version of those projected maps you look at, where I'm at right now, Houston is just slightly, it's going to be in the water. I'm about a 3-hour drive past the lot. I need to move north. I need to go.
Oh, yeah, in the hill country, like I said. And you know what? Jim Hightower is a personal friend of mine. And you don't believe this? The tarot book I was talking about, the magical and ritual use of metaphor. Okay, archetypal gods in daily living. The artwork is done by 72 artists off the boardwalk in San Antonio. And they did them as business cards because it isn't about symbolism and fortune telling. It's about trying to identify all the different parts of you and why you shoot your own foot, like I'm doing all the time. Oops. Once you identify that, you can then understand yourself better. And then if you don't like a certain category, then you change the movie.
Mm-hmm. If only we could consistently remember how to successfully change the movie more often.
Well, you got to identify what parts you want to change. That's the part where you work it as archetypes. That's why I wrote it in that format, because you group things into approximate storyboards, of which there are 22 stories in the big city.
Right.
Pretty cool, huh? And that's a physics way of looking at the occult. It's included? Oh, yeah? Let's see what's going on. That magic ritual? Oh, really? Hidden? Only for the scholar? Golden Dawn wasn't about good and evil and devils, and it was the most ultra elite of Europe, the scholars, because magic, like with Crowley, but realize this is very important. A teacher is only as good as that teacher. And Crowley died as a drug addict in Hastings. Make a note. So I'm going to try to twist it a little bit. My teachers was Mildred Burlingame, Helen Parsons Smith, Jack Parsons, Wilfred Smith, and Phyllis Seckler. The three witches of Endor that were in Agape Lodge in North Hollywood in 1949. And Phyllis was Grady McMurtry's wife. And when Grady died, they offered caliphate to me, and I turned it down because I'm way beyond grade 7. I helped write in the Continuum because I have publication in Class B like Crowley did. And I'm not interested in running a magical order that's basically inhabited by a bunch of young kids trying to rationalize their use of drugs. It isn't about getting high or recreation. It's about the laws of physics change in your different altered states. And I only gave 8 of those to the SEAL program, the current one, and it turned them into supermen. Imagine what man could become if he had access to 200 altered states as tools in a toolbox. That's what I'm doing. And I want out of here. I'm like David Copperfield. I got this empty bowl and, sir, I'm still hungry. Could I have some more, please? I'm hungry. I want out of here. I don't want physical pain. All it is here is pain.
Yep.
Oh,
there's a lot of that going.
I have another.
Yeah, and for those who don't know or don't remember, I mean, we've talked about this before, but you did help come up like back in the 70s, I think it was. You helped develop some of the protocols for the SEALs and how to.
Well, I worked for SEAL Corp after I left that. When they gave me tenure in anesthesiology, I had by law to do OR once a week. And I'm a physicist. I'm not, into pain. I'm not into blood. I get a grip. What I did is I got this aortic catheter to work, and then they gave it upstairs where they murdered dogs on it before they used it on humans. And I had to go in the AOR, and my first one was a brain surgery. The surgeon pulls out a Black & Decker drill and drills 4 holes in the guy's head. And they put a wire in, and they pull it back out to cut the brain plate and fold it over. And it grossed me out.
Man.
So I quit, and that's when SEAL Corp contacted me. I kept my offices on 4th floor at the University of Washington, and I did most of my paranormal stuff until 79 there at the UW because I had access. And if the study took me down in, I had SRI, I had Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, whatever, Patel. I had access to anything because I was an instrumentation specialist, and I did things like black holes, mini black holes, and blah, 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 blah. And I know I don't know what I'm doing. And I was the first in our country, like Carol Rosin just down the street, worked under I worked under Schleicher. She was under von Braun. She did like the secret space program. Now, of course, we're in space. How could we not be? I don't know. Oh, by the way, this is my dinner because of my teeth. And do you think that making it easy for me? It fell out two days before Thanksgiving. I took my turkey and all the dressing and everything. I just ground it in, threw a little extra. What was I drinking here? Oh, eggnog. Drinking it down. I hate bike life. The way they're treating seniors in Oregon is criminal. They figure someone your age, you're no longer productive. Why would we want to do our resources to you when we got young kids that need
it? Well, and quite ironically, you're literally more productive than probably just about anybody living there.
Well, imagine here I am. They gave me medical. Medical is okay here. Pharmacy. Oh yeah, we'll give you any drug you want.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to do that? But the one thing they don't do, dental. I can see. Pharmacy. Oh yeah. Medical. Oh yeah. Psychological. Like I need a help. Oh yeah. We'll wire you up, put you in a straitjacket, and experiment with you.
Yeah. No. But really, the first problem is just the way that whatever designed us, The whole teeth situation is just a shitty design to begin with. There's too much that can go wrong. It's just
what I wanted to do is keep my fangs hunger. But actually, the zombie will be that high school kid when he's out of food. Watch and see. That's why I don't want to be near any 15-minute city. End of story. I want to seek high ground, and the colder the better because people aren't comfortable.
yeah.
I want to be on top, looking down, not trying to climb up, looking above me. Get me?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
Eastern side of the Cascades, an hour and a half from Spokane, that's where I'm going. I've got a friend, it was Freighter Shiva, the destroyer that ran LA Lodge OTO. And when he retired, he's down in Telluride right now in Camis. He calls himself Mr. Shiva, the destroyer. I love it. Good buddies. You know, I know that I don't know, and I'm a seeker. That's what I am. I like David Copperfield, I'm hungry. I want more. I want to know more. And I'm realizing, as educated and as knowledgeable as I am, I'm never going to really know what's going on because it's a dream state and it's imagination, not my physics, that makes something real.
Yeah, and kind of like I was trying to say earlier, is like trying to put into words earlier, is once you, like, I don't think you can figure out what, like, as soon as you do figure out what's going on, that's when the movie ends.
It changed Windows 7, even though they're not updating it. Yeah, that's the way we'll do it because it no longer works. Oh, well, I got to buy a new one. That's why I use Linux now. I really like Linux.
I've been seriously looking in. Yeah, I'm looking into.
They're all downhill. It's just how fast you want to rollerblade down.
Yeah, at least with Linux, you've got many more options, and it's all open source, and you can,
Well, LibreOffice is quite different than Microsoft.
Yeah.
Orders of magnitude.
Yeah, with all due respect, fuck Microsoft. Even though I'm using it right now. But
yeah, but if you buy Windows 11, who owns that intellectual property on the cloud?
Oh yeah, the whole thing with the OneDrive and
mRNA, and they change your DNA. Who owns your physical body?
Yep, there's a whole buffet of conversation to be had there. And you know the FDA just reclassified. They sort of changed the definition of meat so that lab grown meat is now considered meat. So you can go you can go today and look for a package that says organic 100% real beef. Well, lab grown beef is now considered real beef. So that could just be
How about imitation crab meat, which is tilapia?
Yeah.
I used to pull salmon off a trawler during the summer. That's why I was in sports. I came back buff, a little money in my pocket. You know, I lived in Seattle, and I'd go pull salmon during the summer months. Made you, yeah. I hope that's not. Are you vaping? You are. Yeah. That if you see the smoke, the more smoke you see, the larger the particle. And the larger the particle, the more damage it does to your lung. You would be better smoking, I don't know, crack over that.
Yeah, because I know.
When you blow it out, you can see all the smoke coming out. That's a larger particle. And that's why marijuana is a little more than tobacco, and they're all bad. But if you want to wean yourself, you use hypnosis and discipline, not these things that are worse. And I don't want to lose you. I'm 80 and I'm still in good health, and yet all my friends are dead.
Yeah, and but yeah, I know full well this shit is terrible. It's basically just for when I'm inside.
You can do anything you want.
But yeah, I got to figure out a way to. Part of it is just the fidget, having something to do. Like when I'm driving in my car, I'm
Hypnosis,
playing the drums.
self-hypnosis, where you do it yourself. And what I started in 1972,
It's the
I
ritual of
started
it.
doing a daily diary where I'm moving right to left brain, putting something down in writing. So it went from one side of my brain to the other to get it down. That's why Ira Progoff talks about honest journaling as a protocol in magic and training your mind. That's how you start. The second thing you do is meditation, where you take a tenth of your life, 2 hours every day, and you try to train your mind so it's a tool. That's why all your saints in history have talked about the importance. And all roads lead to Rome. If you're training your mind this way or that way, some work a little better for these kinds of people, that kind of person, that's arbitrary. I started with Ananda Marga and I ended up with Sant Mat, or Path of the Masters, 14th century with Kabir. I met Sharan Singh at the time as Prime Minister of India up in Bias when on my way to Tibet. Since 1979, I meditate each day, training my mind. Discipline. Good luck with that.
Yeah, man, I definitely don't meditate like I used to. That's for sure. I need to get back into that. But what my favorite is the sensory deprivation float tanks. It's been a couple years.
Yeah, I used to have fun.
Oh man, that's the best. I mean, you just feel reborn. Like I went every single day for a period of about 3 or 4 months. I had like the full tilt boogie pass at the local float. I could go anytime I want. They would always keep the spot open. And like there were times, the longest session I did was 8 hours, just off in the universe.
You know, I'm impressed with you. I just wanted you to know I don't meet many people that impress me. And the fact that the way you are and your way of questions and your wanting, I'm impressed. And just remember that I said that to you and start keeping a diary. Trust me, it will do something for, that's a form of time travel. You go back to something you wrote 20 years ago, watch what happens to you when you're reading it.
Yeah, you know what? I will start. I'm going to start tonight.
Ira Progoff, start with, look him up, Honest Journaling. He'll tell you how to do it. And if you don't have anything to say that.
Absolutely.
Try to remember your dreams. Like you get up in the morning, the first thing you do is try to remember what you were dreaming. At first, it'll be impossible. And then you're starting to understand the dream world. And with that comes the metaphor of where you are right now. In terms of who you are, different than Gigi.
Absolutely. And I want to say it really means a lot to me what you just said. I really appreciate that. I remember when Cortana and I first started this show, I mean, because I had heard you on Jimmy Church's show a couple of times, and I like as soon as we actually started the show, the first episodes, we had a few friends on or whatever. But when it was time to like actually get somebody, you were the first person I reached out to, and I just
thank you for calling me to be on your show too. By the way, I really appreciate it. It's now almost my bedtime. I didn't have, but I'll do it as long as you need. The thing with John B. Wells, they had me on 2 nights ago, but I was scheduled to go on the next day. I was sound asleep when they called. Ready to go on the show? I went, oh, what? And I'll send you, you've got the questions. I'll send you this, something you can post if you want on your site. Send me the links and I'll double up. What I'm trying to do is broaden my demographics because I'm not making it right now with my book sales. It's crazy. People are giving me donations and I appreciate that. But I feel obligated to give more than I take. And that's why I like selling books. And I autograph every single one of them because Amazon, where you can get my books, are publishing without my permission. And I can prove since 2014, a minimum of $265,000 in losses, just in the 10% that a publisher would pay me.
Yeah.
And that's Amazon.
And then the whole situation, I mean, if we wanted to, we could do
I
a
know.
whole. I mean, the lawyer taking off when he did, and I mean
And they
that's an
require me to carry a cell phone. I want you to all listen to me now. At 5G, we talked about toxicity and LD50 ratios. Well, T-Mobile is now charging you on the fly at 6G, and that's why your cell phone gets hot. And at 7.3 gigahertz, I turn you into a weapon. And they're trying to get all of us to carry a cell phone as our daily living, because now they can use you to take someone that doesn't have a cell phone out with GPS, which, by the way, never gets turned off.
Yeah.
News flash.
Yeah.
Cell phones are a weapon.
Yeah, they're the ultimate tool that any government has ever invented in terms of controlling and surveilling. There is nothing else, and poisoning.
Oh,
I mean,
it's good for the goose. Now may not be for the gander. Hoorah!
Exactly. And now all right, there is one super random thing I wanted to get your take on before. Yeah, we can go ahead and wrap this up in a minute here. No worries. But before we do, I do want to ask you about one thing. I've asked a couple of, I've showed this to a couple of people on the show over the last couple of years. Mike Barra was one of them, and he was genuinely, stumped, and didn't know about that. So, Admiral Richard Byrd,
Yes.
he, went
Antarctica.
to, yeah, exactly. So now remember when he came back and he did that talk show on TV, and there's that famous clip of him that everybody likes to argue about where he says, it's a two-part sentence, but the second part is what everybody talks about, where he says there is, and it's the way he says it too, there is land past the other side of the South Pole that is larger than like, he's not talking about, it doesn't sound like he's talking about the South Pole. He's saying past that there's more land over there.
Antarctica is possibly the largest land mass on Earth, not Europe.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean in terms of physical land mass.
Yeah, for sure. And
back then, I went in 75, 74, somewhere in there. We went in through Thule Island, where we staged at Thule Island, got in a sub, and then we went down under the island and came up. And I was hired to do the light. They didn't know at that time. Bioluminescence was just starting to understand, and it was.
And that was with the seals, right?
On the walls, and the cavern itself that we were in was more than a mile high. We're talking about a huge cave, and it was more than a mile high. And there was 19 slips there where the Nazis, apparently, I think it was probably Kennedy that nuked that. I don't know, but that was nuked then. And further down was a Viking base that's not in history, that was from 14th century. Vikings apparently had discovered it also. And even further down was this gigantic hole that was went straight down into the mantle 100 miles. We at the 74 did not have that kind of technology. We have drones that'll go up and down, but not 100 miles.
Right. And
they recently, when Buzz Aldrin and others went down there, Buzz called me and told me when they got down there, something woke up.
Yeah,
that?
And when you went, that was with the Navy, right? That was a Navy operation, for lack of a better term.
I don't know what's going on. I've seen what I've seen, and I try to interpret it using physics so that you can trust that I will adhere to those rules of engagement. I will not try to be woo-woo, and yet I'm interested in woo-woo. That's interesting. Let's figure out how does that work. I don't know.
Okay.
What I do know. Go ahead.
Well, so that for that second part of the sentence where he talks about the land in Antarctica, that's what everybody gets hung up on, and what did he mean by that and all that. So that's all fine and good. Well, let's put that aside. What I'm interested in is or more interested in rather, is the first part of the sentence where the question was that the guy asked Byrd was, is there anywhere left to discover new land? Is there anywhere left to explore? And he starts his answer off by saying, and I quote, not so much in the North Pole because it's getting quite crowded up there, not only to live in, but also militarily. Now, wait a minute. If you look at the map right now, you go on Google Earth, you go on the map, there is nothing at the North Pole. Water. There's nothing shown on the map. But when you look at ancient maps, you see the classic sort of 4 mini continents that surround the North Pole.
Different magnetic pole shifts when the magnetic fields of the Earth are spinning in the center of the Earth, change and go in the opposite direction, and all the lava that's down there gets thrown to the surface and starts causing changes, like when Alaska was connected to Siberia.
Okay, so do you? Because I mean, there's really only 2 things that could be going on here. I mean, he is literally telling you that he's telling us that there's land up there and people are living there and it's getting crowded up there and there's military operations happening. So but when we look on the map, the maps that we are allowed to look at and the maps that are public maps, it shows no land up there. So there's either land there that we're not being told about.
Nick Begich, my buddy Nick, that was the one that got me into starting to want to write again. Nick is the one that brought me up to Alaska. I spent 3 weeks with him. And what he did for me, I can never thank him enough. That's when I wrote first the ESP book, and he published it. Second edition now that I'm doing but Nick did the forward on those and power tools, the 8 protocols I gave Navy SEALs. By the way, here's a use of one altered state. One of the things I do at the Y is I can change my perception of time with breath control. Everything slows down in the way I'm experiencing it when I'm listening to my water, breathing. And that state, you can take martial arts to a paranormal level with precision. That's one of the 8 protocols where the laws are different. And you can use these as tools in a toolbox to do things you can't do in conscious state. That's why they're there. And I find it interesting that the most commonest plant in the universe, crabgrass, has dimethyltryptamine in it. It's almost like it isn't about chemistry, it's about a delivery system from God. Because when you smoke 5-alpha dimethyltryptamine, whoa, it's N comma and hyphen dimethyltryptamine. Rick Strassman studies get you into that altered state. And it's your own neurotransmitter does it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah. Man, yeah. A good friend of mine just, had classic DMT and ayahuasca and all of that, but just recently got back from a 5-MeO experience. And someone I'm really close to, and one of those people you're able to sort of convey ideas and experiences sort of beyond words because we've shared so many of them.
That's emotional. That's where you start the EQ part.
Yeah, that's such a great way to put it. Yeah, exactly. Man, what
See how
he had to share.
Bobbing like that. I just noticed myself doing that. I'm savant.
Yeah,
Sorry. We're so sorry, Mr. Albert.
And but
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's interesting. If you can train your mind with meditation and using right to left brain, where you're storing your energy and information differently for access to it, that's the distinction between knowledge and wisdom. It's when you make it yours. You integrate it and you use it not as everybody else, but the way you do it. That's where you're actually evolving.
Absolutely. And yeah. Now
I
so
didn't mean to make you speechless. You're,
yeah, I'm trying to yeah, because like I
I'd be
still
happy
have
to do more. You
well yeah,
bet. I'm
we'll
available
definitely have
anytime you
to
want me.
yeah, we'll have to have you back
What I'd
pretty
like you
soon.
to do, yeah, is get a bunch of your listeners to send you a bunch of questions that they want to have answers on, which are different than the ones you want. And then we'll really open up some.
Yeah, I'm
And then
surprised I've
that
never
will
done that.
fulfill
Yeah.
my intent of leaving you better than I found you. That's what I'm about. I want to make you rich, like you hopefully, so that I don't have to do food stamps. I'm
There you go.
I don't want I've got donation buttons but and I'm open to donations on the university for children and on these farms, because we do need to start changing what we do with our children right now.
Yesterday, yeah.
Okay, because they're going to be the ones that carry on, and as they are right now, within 4 generations, that's the Stone Age, with or without any event.
Yeah, and
that's where I'm coming from.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, right now, it definitely we better get started. Now, so I do have, for those of you in the chat, I've put the link to his website, which is pretty simple to remember. It's richardallenmiller.com. I would highly suggest signing up for his newsletter. Boy, if that's not a bunch of intellectual fun, I don't know what is. Sign up for the newsletter. Keep up to date with everything that is Doc
Ram.
Think
of my daily conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
That's online. I am not charging money for that. That's a newsletter I did. The last time I did a newsletter, I did it for 10 years. It was called the Herb Market Report. And now it's the Encyclopedia on Alternative Ag, but that's just the beginning. I have 360 PDFs on different crops, including how to make cottage industries out of them, or you take something local like red clover, because of the little pistil, you can use that for Golden Eagle herbal chew. It'll hold the glycerin and you can swallow it, not spit.
There you go. And if you're not in the chat room, it's just richardallenmiller.com. The link is also on the website, on our website, over on the guest info page. All that stuff is right there. And yeah, if you're watching this replay on YouTube, yeah, feel free to leave a comment for the next time we have.
What I really need is some volunteers that would have skill sets that can help me finish my goal, because while I can do everything, I can do anything. I can't do everything. And if I'm going to finish those manuscripts, I can't be doing my layout. I can't be marketing my book. I normally I would have just gone dark and not even been known. But I need income so that I can. And every time I sit down to write, something stops me. I think I have a stalker. I don't know. I don't care. There's not much I can do about it one way or the other than try to anticipate. And when I go to write, just lock the door and turn my phone off.
Yep, turn that phone off and keep it away from you. Absolutely.
But now I got my teeth I got to deal with. I have to drink everything. This was eggnog and some soup that I made, and I don't know what was in that. I every day it's something different. I'm trying to keep my nutrient part down correctly so I don't get sick, because I can't just eat normally. What I would eat is a balanced diet, that kind of thing. And I'm
well.
Thank you for whatever any of you guys can do. I'm good to go. And will you see some of the new stuff I'm coming out with? This new small family farm for the 21st century is what children should be doing, because they're the ones that are going to save this earth, not you or me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Teach your children well.
1000%. And yeah, there's absolutely a ton of stuff that we didn't even start getting to tonight that we'll definitely get into next time. And again, if anybody, like Rick said, if you guys have any specific questions or things you want us to get into next time, leave a comment.
Send them to you, and I'll come on, and we'll just go right down through it. And if you can go in the guest room, you can follow up questions, JJ, so that we can make this thing happen for you, because
Definitely.
you're going to need some direction shortly. I'm not kidding.
I know it.
And you live off the grid for 30 days as part of the Power Tools series. I have a 5-book series I've reduced down. So I'm trying to, get the information into the right hands, because when I did my study, nothing survived in written records. I had to use geology. Stone tablets didn't happen until 11,200 years ago. Newsflash.
Boom. And with that, yeah, richardallenmiller.com for plenty more of that. And
thanks, JJ, for having me, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Rick, for coming on. It's always a pleasure. And thanks for I'm pretty sure this is the last episode of the year. So again,
if you ever want to come up to visit, I'll show you how we clam dig when I was a child on the coast. They
Absolutely.
actually cleaned the beaches. And one of the things I did with what they call flotsam, I used a separator, and I separated it into 1, 2, and 3-inch particles and put it in Pier 1. Yeah. I did 150 truckloads of ponderosa pine cone as a fire hazard here. That was $10,000 a day in labor for 8 months. What color would you like your fire starter, Mom? They don't have any kindling on the East Coast. That's how you're going to do it next. Barter and have things they don't have that are as essential as the things you need from them.
Yep. It's going to be a whole nother chapter, a whole nother book, a whole nother movie going full circle. Look at that. All right. Well, Rick, thanks a lot for coming on tonight.
My pleasure.
I'll definitely be in touch very soon, actually. Yeah, I'll get back to you about the other stuff.
And I'll get
next
this
week.
off to you in the morning. Yeah.
All right, fantastic.
Thanks for having me, TJ. Anytime, I'm available.
Thanks.
You take care.
All right, I appreciate it, Rick. Have a good one.
You too, sir. Let me see how I get out of here. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.
There you go. And let me get my big face out of here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this year. There is a chance I might be doing a show next Friday. But no, can't guarantee it. So if not, yeah, wish you guys a helly Christmas. Wish you guys a helly Christmas. A holly jolly Christmas, a happy new year. And I'll be on Twitch from time to time doing some game stuff. We might have a Midnight Blend coming up in the next week or two, but as far as Shift Happens, this is probably it for the rest of the year. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you. And if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a like. Unless you didn't like it, then hit that dislike button, but that's always much appreciated. And yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and sign out of here. I'm gonna drink a bunch of eggnog, and I think I'm gonna jump into some Morrowind. That's what I'm doing. And all right, that's enough for one night, and I am going to boogie on out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Shift Happens Here. The show is hosted and produced by yours truly, GG. Follow me on Twitter over at Shift Happens Pod. That's where if you want to know what's going on with the show for any that's where we update first. That's where we announce stuff, as well as shifthappensradio.com. But Twitter at Shift Happens Pod is the best place. Co-host no co-host. Associate producer, as always, is Brad Harris. You can follow him over on Twitter at ADS Brad Harris. But yeah, it's cool to see JP popping in tonight, former co-host. Good to see you, buddy. And without any further ado, I'm out of here, folks. Have a great rest of your holiday season, and we'll see you sooner or later. Wait, bye-bye now.